Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 594, 594, October the 31st, 2018, Wednesday. The day that I have chicken and take out the trash. Every Wednesday, have some chicken and take out the trash. Of course, it's Halloween. So happy Halloween to all of you. Don't come to my house. I'm not giving out any damn candy. No one comes to my house anyway. I live too far out in the sticks. They all go to the city to trick-or-treat around here. They get out of town. I used to buy candy. I'd set it out there, and I'd be lucky if I got one trick-or-treater. And then I'd have like a big basket full of candy for like a month. And so I just quit doing it. Because like I said, I live kind of out. We don't have a lot of trick-or-treaters out here, so we let it slide. Gonna be a pretty nasty night tomorrow night here where I live. It's supposed to be really kind of chilly and really raining hard. Hard rain and chilly. Not a good night for trick-or-treating. Let's get to the news. Don't know how many of you saw that interview with Donald Trump and Laura Ingraham, but she asked him two questions that I paid close attention to. She asked him about Rodenstein and why he suddenly, seems to be okay with Rodenstein. He completely dodged the question, other than to say, "Hey, we get along. It's okay, we get along," and then he got off of it. He didn't want to specifically drill down on that or talk much about it. He just pretty much wanted to say, "Yeah, hey, we get along. It's fine," and he moved on. So he didn't want to talk much about Rodenstein, which made me a little curious. He didn't want to get into it, let's put it that way. But he also was asked about declassification by Laura Ingraham. That was a lot more telling. He was pretty direct, and he came back and said, "Yeah, well, basically, we'll be talking about that or getting more into that after the midterms," which confirms what I said about a month and a half ago when we noticed after he said he was going to declassify, then Rodenstein talked him out of it, then he said he's going to give it to the AG, Huckleberry Horowitz, and that he wanted quick action, and that he said, I can always still declassify. So I think what happened here is that purely from political strategy, I think Trump looked at the midterm elections and he looked at his priorities. I think Trump looks at a priority. I think he said, my number one priority is to, win in the midterms, because if the Democrats take over either the House or the Senate, things are going to be really bad. My agenda will be, the brakes will be slammed on my agenda. They'll be investigating me. Things only get much worse. So I think he really put a lot of focus on the midterms. And of course, the thing that bothers him the most is the Mueller witch hunt. So I think he's been focused totally on the Mueller witch hunt, getting it brought to a conclusion, and also the midterms. And I think he probably, either on his own or from speaking with other people he trusts, political advisors, decided that you could declassify these documents and you could expose a lot of this stuff. He knows it's all going to come out anyway, and he knows he can expose it at any time. He can declassify at any time. And of course, maybe it could have been used to help you by being able to point out that here's the proof of what all these FBI and DOJ officials did, but it could also get into some very complicated stuff. He knows the left-wing media will be defending it. He knows the perps aren't going to throw up their hands and surrender. He knows they're going to fight back. And he probably looked at the situation on the calendar and said, this thing's going to go on for a while. Once I declassify, even once all this comes out, it's going to go on for quite a long time before we finally really get it out there and really get the truth out there, because we'll be battling the left-wing media and the Democrats and everyone else to get the truth out. And so I think he made a political calculation at some point in the past month and a half or so to focus on the midterms, winning, holding on to both houses of Congress, getting Rodenstein to end the Mueller witch hunt immediately after the midterms, and exonerating him from any liability or criminal liability with the Mueller report or a Mueller witch hunt, whatever, however you want to look at it. And I think he decided that the best time to use the declassification and exposing the plot against him will be best used as a post-midterm strategy leading into his election in 2020, because this gives him a full 2 years to allow this to be aired out. And he knows right away there'll be a lot of propaganda coming from the left. He knows that there'll be a lot of fighting back from the deep state, doing everything they can. But I think he knows that it may take 6 months to a year, even with the facts out there, it may take 6 months to a year to cut through to where people can just no longer deny what the facts tell us, which is that there was a plot to exonerate the rotten Reverend Clinton and frame Donald Trump. And in the process, to frame several people in his campaign along the way to get to him, namely Carter Page and Papadopoulos, and of course the efforts that were made on Josh Miller, Roger Stone, Michael Caputo, and possibly others. So I think it's a political calculation that President Trump made as far as how to deal with this. But from what he told Laura Ingraham, he did not pause when she asked him about that. He didn't stop and think about it at all. As soon as she said, a lot of people, Republicans, want to see this declassification, and she said, yeah, you're going to declassify, then you kicked it to Rodenstein or kicked it to Huckleberry Horowitz, and he very quickly came back to her and said, yes, after the midterms, we're going to take a look at all that declassification or whatever. So this is clearly something he is absolutely committed to, but I think he made a political calculation that it was best to be, this was best left till after the midterm, and I agree with that. Honestly, I do. Because this can go both ways. And had he declassified that and started that argument now, there's certainly, it would have been a two-way battle. It's not like he was going to declassify and everybody was going to go, oh my God, the truth has been revealed. Oh no. No, the left is not, the news media is not going to cover it. They're certainly not going to cover it honestly. The deep state isn't going to admit their crimes. They aren't going to come out, with their hands up or anything. So he knows this is going to be an ugly, long fight, even once the declassification happens, even once the IG report comes out, even once the Congress releases their reports, even once these civil lawsuits continue to go forward. It's still going to be a very, it's going to be a very tumultuous situation for months and months and months and months leading up to the 2020 elections. It's going to take a while, and I think it's going to be fairly ugly as it's airing itself out. I think he understood that, and I think that's the answer he gave Laura Ingraham, that's what it tells me. That this is purposeful, and that he made that move with the declassification, a very well thought out decision, and a very good reason for why he did it. He didn't just do it offhandedly. Say, well, let's just, okay, I wasn't declassified, but Rodenstein talked me out of it. Let's just give it to the IG. Now, I think there was a lot more that went into it than that, thought-wise and strategy-wise. And so I think we'll have to wait till after the midterms. But as I've said many times now, I think after the midterms, we'll see the Mueller witch hunt shut down. And then I think once that happens, I think Trump is in the free and clear to declassify whatever. And I think all these things will begin to move forward. And the deep state coup will then be exposed fully. That's my thoughts, my predictions of how that's going to play out and why things are playing out the way they are. Trump's in complete control of that, of the timing. Alrighty, it looks like that, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, the judge threw out the case with Saggy Daniels and her lawyer, the porn lawyer Avenatti, and he also ruled that they have to pay Trump's legal fee. So today we got the number of Trump's legal fee that Avenatti is going to have to pay, on top of the fact that he just got hit with a $4.5 million judgment, on top of the fact that he had a previous more than $10 million judgment with the same guy, and he's also, his wife's wanting $200,000 a month alimony. I mean, this guy's just getting shredded. But it appears that the legal bill to Mr. Avenatti for Trump's attorneys is going to be $341,559.50. $341,559.50 added to Avenetti's tab. He better be a good dancer, because he's owing a lot of people a lot of money. Papagalopoulos' latest tweet is the following: "There is a reason I have the top law firm in New York representing me. It's not for my defense, but to go on offense." Wow. Again, there's no question in my mind that Papagalopoulos is going to be a major factor as soon as the midterms are over. He is going to give public testimony, and I think they may invite Carter Page as well, maybe other people. But his testimony, I think, is going to be powerful, as well as Carter Page if he is there as well. It's going to be an open hearing. He's going to go through the entire thing. It's going to be very interesting to see how the news media tries to spin that, because they know that he's likely telling the truth. He'll be under oath, and that there are facts and documents and witnesses and other evidence that will back up a lot of what Papagalopoulos is saying. It's going to be really something to see, I think, and I think it's going to be the real turning point, and it's probably going to be the thing that lights the fuse for everything else that needs to happen, that will lead to, I think, a special counsel, a serious investigation, and I think likely many indictments for those who were involved in the frame-up and the exoneration of the rotten Reverend Clinton. Keep in mind, Carter Page has already filed his suit just 2 weeks ago against the DNC and Perkins Coie. And that means that his attorneys for Carter Page are going to be getting depositions from everyone at the DNC, which would include the rotten Reverend Clinton, as well as Perkins Coie, Mr. Sussman, Mr. Elias, the whole 9 yards. A lot will be revealed there as well. Consumer confidence at an 18-year high. That's very important going into a midterm election, don't you think? Next, we have a story many of you have heard. Some of you may have not. This guy, this actor, James Cromwell, he's one of them people who you may not recognize his name, but you've probably seen him in a lot of movies because, you know, he has a very distinguishable face, and, you know, he's a tall, lanky, bald, older type actor in his 60s, but he's got that really long, crooked nose. He played the president in The Sum of All Fears. He's been in a lot of movies. Character actor, hardcore lefty, big environmentalist, big-time PETA supporter. And he gave a speech this past weekend where he said that if the Democrats don't win the midterms, there's going to be blood in the streets. Blood in the streets if the Democrats don't win the midterms. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of liberal tears, a lot of liberal meltdowns, and a lot of laughs for all of us. It could even eclipse the humor that we experienced in 2016, and that's hard to imagine because the compilation clips of the meltdowns of election night 2016 is so good that I still watch them. Still watch them, they're so good. This could eclipse even the 2016 meltdowns by the SJWs and the leftist left-wing media. It's a very dangerous statement to make there, Mr. Cromwell. Blood in the streets, really? Because you lose an election? Let's keep one thing in mind, Mr. Cromwell. The folks you represent hate guns. Don't have any guns. Don't like guns. Don't know how to use guns. Probably couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Let's also take a look at that map, Mr. Cromwell. You'll notice it's mostly red. The rotten Reverend Clinton and the Democrats can run up big numbers in huge population centers like Los Angeles and Detroit and Philadelphia and New York and places like that. But if you look across the fruited plain, you'll notice that nearly the entire map is red. And there's a lot of folks in that red area that are very, very good with a firearm, have many of them, and lots of ammo, and don't like to be fucked with, Mr. Cromwell. We will protect our property, Mr. Cromwell. You don't want to come here to where I live, Mr. Cromwell. You don't want to come here. I can assure you of that. The blood in the streets that will be spilled in the streets if you come here, Mr. Cromwell, will be your own. And those who think like you will get your ass destroyed in this particular district, Mr. Cromwell. And for the most part, all across the majority of the country, all throughout the Midwest, the Farm Belt, the Rust Belt, the South, you'll get your ass beat like a dog. Stay in your urban centers, Mr. Cromwell. Keep talking shit. That's my advice to you, Mr. Cromwell. Don't come to red country, sir. Don't do it. Or yes, you will see blood in the streets, and it will be your own. Oregon could elect its first Republican governor in the last 40 years. The first Republican governor of Oregon possibly to be elected in the last 40 years. Right now they have Kate Brown. We've talked about her before. I think she was Dumbass of the Week one time. She's a disaster. And what a lot of people don't know is that they think about San Francisco and other sanctuary cities, but actually Oregon was the sanctuary city. It was a sanctuary city before the term sanctuary city was even created. A lot of people have been watching what's been going on with out there in Portland, out there in various places in Oregon. It's a very, very left-wing deal out there. Antifa, very, very active out there in Oregon. It's a real left-wing state, and the people out there are sick and tired of it. They're sick of sanctuary cities. They're sick of the high taxes. They're sick of the massive debt that they have for, I forget what, it's the pension funds, I believe, are just absolutely, they got like a $1 trillion pension fund debt. They have a lot of problems there. And the person running against Kate Brown is Newt Bueller, who's like a 2-term state senator. And he's kind of a moderate. He's not much of a Trump guy, but he is opposed to the sanctuary cities, and he does make immigration a major issue in his campaign. And it's sticking. It is sticking in a place where, again, the original sanctuary city, where they are overrun with migrants, and have a lot of problems as a result. And it looks like it's possible. It's possible. It's within the margin of error that Oregon could elect its first Republican governor in 40 years. And it'll have a lot to do with the immigration issue and the debt in that state. We'll watch that very closely. Now we have Claire McCaskill running a radio ad where in the radio ad, I don't know if you've heard it, but in the radio ad it actually says, Claire McCaskill is not a crazy Democrat. So now Claire McCaskill, and she's taken a lot of heat from Democrats, is now trying to point out crazy Democrats and try to tell people in Missouri that she's not one of them. She's trying to separate herself from the crazy Democrats. First of all, that's incredible that she would run an ad like that, because no one has really used too much that term amongst the political class, other than maybe Trump, and calling the Democrats crazy. But here you have Claire McCaskill so desperate to try to hold on to her seat that she's willing to throw Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren under the bus by name. By name. She names them. She talks about how the crazy Democrats are running people out of restaurants, getting in people's faces. She literally says this in the radio ad. So she's trying to convince moderates and people in Missouri that she's not one of the crazy Democrats. Funny that you didn't see her come out and make these positions known until she got way behind and a week out from the election. Not a peep out of her until now. And I don't think this is a good strategy for her, by the way. But what it tells you is a couple things. Number one, the Democrats definitely realize that they are being identified as the party of crazy, and that's not good. It also tells you that she doesn't believe there's any blue wave coming, because if there was, she would trust that her base is really going to come out the way everyone says they are, and they're going to vote for anything that would oppose Trump. But if that was what she really believed, she wouldn't come out and move to the center and start calling her fellow Democrats crazies. She would move to the left and side with them. It's not what she's doing, which means Claire McCaskill doesn't believe there is any blue wave coming. She has to appeal to moderates. Dangerous move on her part, because that means that she's automatically going to lose the support of a good number of lefties who are probably going to hold their nose and vote for her. But now, they probably won't. They'll probably say, to hell with McCaskill. She's not a real liberal. Screw her. I'll vote Green Party, or I just won't vote. So by doing this, she is going to lose support from the far left. What does that tell us? It tells us that Claire McCaskill, at least in Missouri, feels like there's a lot more people of the center-right than there are people of the far left. Because that's who she's going to try to play to in the final days of the campaign to try to save herself, which I don't think is going to work. I think it's a done deal. I think McCaskill is going down, right along with Heidi Heitkamp. We also now have Google up to their usual tricks, blocking the Marsha Blackburn ad, which shows that protesters interrupting her moment of silence over the synagogue bombing. Many of you saw that. It was quite disturbing, as protesters had to be taken away kicking and screaming as they interrupted a moment of silence for the shooters of the synagogue, or for the people who were killed in the synagogue shooting during a moment of silence. It was a pretty disturbing thing. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that. And she had put together, Marsha Blackburn put together an ad which she was running, and now Google is blocking that ad. If you see that ad, if you find that ad, go find that video on YouTube and Facebook that sucker as much as you can. If you're on Twitter, tweet it. Do everything you can. Promote the hell out of that, because Google is acting the fool once again. It's not going to work, because likely the fact that they're blocking this ad will probably make people want to see it even more. For those who haven't seen it, it's very, very disturbing. And I'm sure most of you saw the little video clip of the rotten Reverend Clinton in that comment that she made when asked about Cory Booker, or the interviewer getting Cory Booker confused with Eric Holder. And the rotten Reverend looks at the interviewer and says, yeah, well, you know, they all look alike. They all look alike. Can you imagine if Trump had said that? Or any Republican had said that? Can you imagine if I had said that on my YouTube video? My channel would be suspended. I promise you that. But the rotten Reverend Clinton can say it, and I haven't seen a single media. Maybe it's happened. I just haven't seen it. If you've seen it, let me know. Leave it in the comments section. Has CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, any of those, have any of those showed their viewers that clip of the rotten Reverend Clinton suggesting that Eric Holder, Cory Booker, they all look alike? I haven't seen it. I've been looking for it. They conveniently overlooked that, but I assure you, if any Republican, especially Trump, would have done that, it would be 24/7, round the clock. Every single liberal legacy media network would be running it on a constant loop. It would never end. Never. It would go from now until Election Day. Guarantee it. Soros and the rotten Reverend Clinton would immediately activate their goon squads. There would be riots. They would be burning down buildings, burning cars, turning cars over in the streets. There would be major civil unrest all across the country. This would all be happening had Trump made that comment. But it gets even worse for the rotten Reverend Clinton. She was at another event over the weekend where she suggested she may consider running again in 2020, and that she's waiting till after the midterms to decide. I already told you. She had every intention of running in 2020, and she decided that the night she lost. in 2016. Absolutely guarantee it. I've been saying this for a long, long, long time. And there is still not a single Democrat in that long list you see who can raise the kind of money she can and who has the support. I mean, Hillary's still got probably 35% of the electorate solid in her corner. Regardless, she could go out and axe murder a bunch of children in a nursery school. They could find her with the axe in her hand, the blood all over her, the video evidence, and these people would still vote for her. She could be in prison and they would still vote for her. They're as sick as she is. So, Democrats are fit to be tied. They don't know what to think. And especially a lot of those who thought they wanted to throw their hat in the ring, because you know how the Clintons operate. They take out the competition early. They make it perfectly clear they clear the field for Hillary. They have to. She really can't get on stage and debate another Democrat who's reasonable and intelligent and can make a cogent argument, because she'll lose. They can only have the Right Reverend Clinton run against a couple selected individuals who really suck. And in fact, Bernie Sanders was a hand picker. They thought, yeah, we got to have Bernie. We got to have Bernie on stage to be the far left so that you can position yourself as the common sense centrist. That was the role Bernie was supposed to play. But then, he gained more popularity than she did. And had she not cheated Bernie, he might have won that race. Absolutely, might have won that race had he not been cheated. The Right Reverend Clinton's running again in 2020, I can assure you that. Unless she has some health issue or something. Or unless there's an intervention by the, DNC and the heavy donors, the big donors, the money people. If they come in and say, okay, sorry, Hillary, but we just can't do it, man. We just can't do it. You just got to go away. And don't even campaign for anybody. Just go away. Just go away. Maybe that'll happen, but the Right Reverend Clinton is, she's got a lot of dirt on a lot of people, as the Clintons, both Clintons, Bill and Hillary Clinton, kept an enemies file. The whole time they were in Washington, the entire 8 years, they built a massive, massive database of just about everyone in Washington, every power player, every donor, everybody. They got the goods on just about everybody. And she can outraise money better than anyone. She'll play dirtier than anyone. There's really nothing that the Right Reverend Clinton will not do to get her hands on some power. If she does run in 2020, she'll be defeated twice as bad as she was. In fact, she runs against Trump in 2020, she may lose. Trump may win 48 states. Very likely. It'll be a huge blowout. It won't even be as close as last time. And wasn't all that close in 2016. Of course, every time we come up on an election, we get the nutcases coming out of Hollywood telling us they're all going to leave and go to, some other place. They're going to leave the U.S. Now we have Barbara Streisand, good old Babs, hasn't been relevant in 50 years, saying that she's going to move to Canada or Australia if the Republicans win the midterms. She's not going anywhere. Neither is Alec Baldwin or any of the rest of these people. They all promise to move out of the country, and they never do. They never do. I wish they would. I wish they would. We don't really want them here. We don't need them here. They don't like it here. Why do they want to live in a country that they hate? They need to go to Venezuela or Sweden or somewhere where they have a far left government. And there they can pay 98% of their vast wealth and income in taxes. We'll see how long they last in these liberal meccas and these socialist utopias when they get taxed at about 98%. They'll be back here in a hurry. Now we got some really strange stuff going on, and again, it's Jack Burkman right back in the middle of it again. Jack Burkman he's a publicity hound. He is not a straight shooter. I think he's a disinformation agent. I got a lot of problems with Jack Burkman. I've done multiple videos on this guy. He's the guy who tried to jump into the Seth Rich game as a disinformation agent. And his argument was, yeah, well, Seth Rich was murdered by the Russians. The Russians killed Seth Rich. So he was trying to run the Russians killed Seth Rich thing. He's been trying to run that. reminds me a lot of Avenatti. Makes a lot of claims, makes a lot of big publicity stunts, never produces anything. Now he's running another stunt, which is probably on behalf of the left and the deep state. He was an anti-Trumper, hardcore anti-Trumper. Pretends now to like Trump, but he doesn't. Don't believe him. He's a liar. He's working for the other side. He's an operative. Now he's saying that he has a woman who is going to claim on Thursday, he's going to have a press conference like he typically does. He's going to have a press conference, and he's going to claim with this woman that Uncle Bob the Executioner, Mueller, sexually assaulted her when he was the FBI director. Now, this was a long time ago. Why is she just now coming out now? I don't know. But he also says that he has other women who claim that Uncle Bob the Executioner, Mueller, has sexually assaulted them. So as soon as this story comes out, then it's followed immediately by another story that comes out in the Daily Caller, which says that the special counsel is asking the FBI to investigate claims that a woman was offered $20,000 to make sexual harassment claims against Uncle Bob. So now the special counsel, Uncle Bob the Executioner, wants the FBI to look into claims that some woman who is apparently coming forward and telling Uncle Bob this, that she was offered $20,000 to make a claim that Uncle Bob harassed her, sexually harassed her. And it appears that came from Berkman. Berkman was contacted and asked about it, and he denies having anything to do with offering this woman $20,000 to make up an accusation against Uncle Bob. But he claims he does have another woman who is someone he says is a very good witness, and there are others, he says. This is all a big publicity stunt by Berkman. Nothing will come out of it. It's just more bullshit from Berkman. It might, and as far as how it might play in a week before the election, hopefully it won't get very much play and it will have no effect. But if it has any effect, it will have a negative effect on Republicans. Never trust Jack Berkman. He's a bullshit artist. Don't trust Jack Berkman. Don't buy it. He's a smooth character, I admit. He seems like a likable guy, I admit. But don't buy his act. Don't buy his act. Whitey Bulger, killed in prison. A lot of people say it's because he was about to out some FBI officials. I don't know why that'd be a big deal. Whitey's going to come out and out FBI officials? Why now? And who would believe him? And who's going to give him the platform? I don't really think it has anything to do with he was going to out some FBI officials. No one gives a shit. The DOJ doesn't care if you out some FBI officials. They're in the same group. They're probably working with him, Whitey. No, I think that this is more than likely just he finally, his number came up. I mean, he turned on some high-level mobsters a long time ago. And they've just been waiting for their opportunity. I mean, he just finally, I'm surprised he lasted this long. I thought he would have been killed long ago. His number came up. Ratted out some high-level mobsters, and, they finally got him in a situation where they could get him and take him out. And they did. A lot of people are talking about the fact that Trump wants to end this birthright citizenship for children who are born on American territory, essentially the anchor babies. This is a tough one. Lindsey Graham saying he's also going to be putting together, sponsoring a bill to go through Congress to do the same thing. What do I think's going on here? Do I think there's a chance this happening? Probably not. It will go to the Supreme Court, maybe. It will be battled hard. It's a very complicated issue. The 14th Amendment has been reworked 3 or 4 times since it was written. That particular clause they're referring to, you could argue it either way. I don't see it going anywhere, but what I think this is the genius of Trump a week before the election. Trump knows that by bringing this up and making the suggestion that he's going to do this is going to drive the Democrats nuts. It's going to drive them nuts. And what happens when he drives them nuts? They come out and say crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. I think that this is nothing more than a pre-election ploy by President Trump. But it's also to send a message he's serious about the border issue. But it's also to evoke a crazy response by the Democrats, as could easily be predicted. It will probably work and pay off for him in the midterms. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.